Welcome to the breakdown. I'm Matty Marshall alongside Todd Martinez, and we are 3 events deep into the 2013 PSP season. And the first 2 events were all San Diego Dynasty, but Houston Heat, the heroes of 2012, finally stepping up, defeating the Dragon, and they took down San Diego Dynasty. The score was 5-3 in the final, Todd, but honestly probably should have been 6-3. But Houston Heat, man, they look phenomenal here in Chicago.
Yeah, they really did. Konstantin Fedorov was just a dominant force the whole weekend. Mishka played really awesome for them on the Dorito side. And this was the tournament that they felt that they had to win. And they came in, they exerted their will, and they took it home, and they well deserved it.
And it was interesting because we were asking the question, who is going to step up to take down Dynasty? Dynasty reforming their team in the offseason. They brought on Tyler Harmon. They brought on Kyle Spick, who is having a great season. The core of the team is playing great. Rusty Glaze is doing a great job of guiding the ship. And they were just dominating the first 2 events. And everyone was asking, where's Houston Heat? Where is Houston Heat? Houston Heat won 3 events in 2012 and the World Cup. And they took 5th at the first 2 events. And finally, also another interesting thing was that they had injuries to 2 of their main snake players. Ronnie Dizon and Chad George were both injured. So the question heading into the Chicago Open was, who is going to play the first attacker on the snake side, the one on that side? And then now kind of thinking about it, it was like, well, of course it's going to be Konstantin Fedorov. But before we get into Konstantin Fedorov, because honestly, the guy played amazing at that event, and he became paintball famous by playing the one on the snake side of the field and just dominating people over there. But you really have to talk about guys like Sergei Sonaiskov, who really played that back corner bunker behind Fedorov. He played that spot amazing. Definitely gets a lot of credit for the success of that team. And guys like Sam Monville, who also had a pretty good event as well. And Nick Sloviak played great within the points that he got. And that's the thing. It's like, should he play Nick Sloviak more? I mean, we're seeing him do some work out there. What do you think?
I think Nick Sloviak has been awesome for Houston Heat. I don't think he gets as many reps as he probably deserves, but, I mean, that's why Jason Trozen is out there making those decisions. But if you're that type of player in that situation, all you can do is make the best of what you got, and I think that's what Nick Sloviak has done. Talk about Sergei Solnishkov. Last year we talked so much about how it was Sam Monville and Chad George were the 1-2 punch over there on the snake side. Mm-hmm. Well, Solnishkov, just like you said, he is Konstantin Fedorov's too.
Yeah.
He's the guy that plays behind Fedorov wherever he's at and helps guide Fedorov to allow him to do the things that he does. And I think that with Sam Monville stepping up in the absence of Chad George, I thought that Solnishkov and Monville really did a great job together helping Fedorov on that snake
What
side.
was really cool is, paintball has very much evolved into pretty much a starting 5 rotation. So you got about 10 guys on the lineups, depending on what team it is. But when you're looking at a team like Houston Heat, man, they're very deep. And it's very impressive to see guys like Monville and Sloviak and Ryan Smith and also, Woodley as well, John Woodley. I mean, guys are just coming off the bench and playing outstanding for them at this last event. And that's what made them so hard to beat last year. I mean, it's really hard to beat a paintball team if you're shooting out their top 5 and then they put their next guys in and then those guys are dominating you. That's a really hard team to beat. And so Houston Heat really kind of remembered who they were, remembered the superstar team that they had, and just got production across the board from their guys. And it was impressive to see. It was impressive to see. However, really honestly, the story of Houston Heat was this, I wouldn't say reemergence because Fedorov has always been an amazing player, but when Konstantin Fedorov was coming up about 10 years ago, we were like, who is this kid coming out of Russia just on fire, just running to the 50, running and gunning, shooting people off the break, running guys down, and then all of a sudden we saw that Konstantin Fedorov again.
Yeah, and I kind of saw a little glimpse of it out at MAO when he started playing that snake side a little bit. He was dominant on the Dorito side. Dallas, we saw him get a couple huge games. And then he comes out here, MAO, plays really well on the snake side, and then forced into the snake at this last tournament in Chicago.
Standout performance by Konstantin Fedorov. He's ranked 7th overall, 118 total kills on the year so far, leading the league in that statistic. Survivability, 68%, and that survivability rating, honestly, one of the reasons he's not one of the top 5 players. He's played 150 points, won 127 of those. An incredibly good win percentage for him. Now, he was the 2013 Chicago Open Finals MVP, and he's the 2013 confirmed kill leader. So Konstantin Fedorov really making a statement at the Chicago Open and doing what he's asked of. I mean, you need that. If you're, when the coach goes to you, say, look, man, we lost our 2 snake guys. I know you've played a pretty versatile role recently, and he has been the one on the snake side of the field. But just look at him, just running guys down, dominating that side of the field.
Yeah, and this was that game against Damage where he had 17 confirmed kills. I mean, this was no blowout game. He came out and they earned this victory. This is the victory that they had to get to make it on to Sunday.
And look at him, man. I mean, he's just we're talking about Tampa Bay Damage here. Tampa Bay Damage took 2nd place at the first 2 events. They won 3 events in a row from the end of 2011 to the beginning of 2012. It's one of the best teams in the world. But Konstantin Fedorov goes out there and just steps up and gets that amazing performance. 17 confirmed kills. You could see him just feeling it there, man. An incredible performance by Konstantin Fedorov, the 2013 Chicago Open MVP. And, since we're talking about Fedorov, we're talking about some of the best players in the world. It is interesting to note, though, that even though Fedorov was playing as well as he did in the Chicago Open, was just, having a field day over there on the snake side of the field, he's still not one of the top 5 players in the league. So let's take a look here and check out the top 5 players in paintball. First up, the 4th and the 5th ranked players, Damian Ryan, number 69, and Jason Edwards, number 13. Damian Ryan for LA Infamous and Jason Edwards for Tampa Bay Damage, coming in at 4th and 5th overall on the year right now. These guys battling it out, trying to see who is the top gun, the best player in the entire world. Look at that kill count for Damian Ryan, 111 confirmed kills so far in 2013 for Damian Ryan, second only to Konstantin Fedorov. Now, Jason Edwards, he's just super consistent, man. Jason Edwards is going out there. He's getting a ton of reps, of course. Why would you not play Jason Edwards a ton of times? But he's really good across the board. And you could make an argument that Jason Edwards is probably one of the best, or not one of the best, but the best back player in the game right now.
Oh, there's no doubt. I mean, last year when we had the voting at the end of the year, the players picked him, the coaches picked him. He's one of those guys. He's got so many intangibles. He's just such a solid player, solid teammate. He knows what he's doing. He communicates very well. He's always shooting people on the break. He's always teaching. He's just one of those dudes that you can always count on to be there for your team, to be a rock. He is Tampa Bay Damage's rock.
And such a good role model for everyone coming up, man. He's a guy who totally reformed his body and his mindset in order to play this game. And then also Damian Ryan. Damian Ryan, 4th overall in the year with the signature skull face mask. And you want to talk about a guy who's really transcended his previous performances is Damian Ryan. Damian Ryan is going out there and making a statement to the paintball world. He wants to be the best player in the world. And he's really showing that out there.
Yeah, look at how many points he played. 140 points Damian Ryan plays here. I think he might have played every point his team has stepped on the field this year.
Pretty much almost every single point. So let's take a look at the 2nd and 3rd ranked players here in the PSP. Kyle Spica, what an amazing story from him. Ranked 2nd overall, and Dave Baines ranked 3rd overall. Dave Baines hasn't got a ton of playing time this year. He's only played 50 points so far this year. Now, Kyle Spica is sharing time with the legend Alex Frazier in the Snake for San Diego Dynasty, but Dave Baines, arguably the most successful player in all of professional paintball over the past 10 years. He's played for nothing but championship teams across the board. And Kyle Spica, for him to come in this year and be ranked 2nd overall at the 3rd event is such a great story. Look at big Dave Baines, man. Again, talk about a role model. He's a big guy, well over 6 feet tall, well over 200 pounds, but plays like he might as well be 5'6" and 140 pounds.
Yeah, the thing about Dave Baines is that he's also, even though he's a big guy, he's agile, he's versatile. He can play both sides of the field. You see him here in the Snake. You're like, what is Dave Baines doing in the Snake over there? He'll go anywhere on the field and be successful.
Let's check out the newly crowned leader here in the Top Gun statistic. And the thing is Marcelo Margot. Marcelo Margot was the runner-up in the Top Gun Awards last year. And with Marcelo, he's kind of slowly but surely got his feet underneath him. And the problem for him is that the Ironmen really haven't performed this year like they expected to perform, but Marcelo is just clocking in solid performances. When you go to paintballaccess.com, look at his statistics. Marcelo is putting up good statistics, consistent statistics across the board. He's got 85 total kills. It's good for 4th overall, actually tied for 4th. He's got great survivability. He hasn't got one penalty all year long, and that's huge because penalties just eat away at your overall ranking. And, I mean, he's going to make just like he did last year. I really feel that, honestly, the only reason Marcelo did not win the Top Gun last year was because he got played out of position at the World Cup. Think about that. Remember what happened at the World Cup last year? So heading into the World Cup in 2012, Marcelo Margot at the top of the standings. He was the best player of the year thus far. And then heading into the World Cup, there was a coaching decision made where Moscow played him in the back center instead of sending him up and being that one on the Dorito side. And they had a new coach who's still kind of getting his feet underneath him. And it was one of those situations where I just feel that was a bad play. I mean, how do you take, say, your best wide receiver, your best point guard, and say, nah, you know what? I think we're going to play you at center this tournament. It just doesn't really make a lot of sense. And Alexander Bjornikov ended up, and nothing against him whatsoever. I mean, obviously, Alexander Bjornikov, Malloy, he's one of the best players ever to play the game. He ended up being the 2012 Top Gun Award winner. But Marcelo's starting to make a run for it. But the thing is he doesn't care about that because ultimately they really need to win tournaments. The Ironmen were formed to win events, and they have Alex Goldman on that team. Danny Park is playing great for them. And it's just one of those situations where it's like, okay, well, Marcelo doesn't care about his stats. I mean, I'm sure it's a good feather in his cap and that sort of thing, but I don't know. What do you think about it?
I feel like it's tough for Marcelo this year because it's a different challenge this year for him. Mm-hmm. Last year on Moscow Red Legion, the big thing for him was just to get up there and kill people. Just be yourself, go up, kill people, don't worry about anything else. And this year, with the whole core of the Ironman kind of being formed around him and Alex Goldman, it's a lot bigger role for him. It's more of a leadership role. So he does have to step up more and think about a lot more things and approach the game differently. And the fact that he's able to still go out there and produce the way that he's been able to produce, I don't think he's been just the 100% killer like Marcelo can be, but I think that...
Because he's had to worry about that.
Because he's had to worry about those other things.
But he's still ranked first right now.
I know.
He's doing really good.
And I'm telling you, as soon as he really gets in a groove, I think those stats are going to skyrocket right from there. But I mean, it's exciting to see because I've known Marcelo for so long. I know what he's capable of. It's fun to watch him play, and it's fun to watch him develop and go through this stuff. But I really honestly think that he has not hit his groove yet. And even though he's the #1 ranked player, I think he's only going to get better with this team.
That's a really good point, man, honestly, because when you look at the situation, that logically makes a lot of sense. I mean, Marcelo has had more responsibility put on him, and, the Ironmen have not been playing up to their potential. They're still getting to Sunday. I don't want to take too much away from the Ironmen, but, that's a team that was assembled to win a championship. That team was put together to win tournaments. They can't just make Sunday. That's not why that team exists. It's the Los Angeles Ironmen. It's a legendary team. They've won for 20 years, and they wax and wane, and they have their ups and downs, but they really had a renewed fire this year. They got a new coach in Mike Hinman. They picked up some new guys. They got Alex Goldman on the team. That was a big pickup for them. They have a very much a renewed fire to try to get back into championship form, and that is eating away at Marcelo right now and the rest of the guys of that team, because that's what they really want. And I've talked to Marcelo about this when the rankings hit, and I talked to him and I said, hey, look, you're the #1 guy again. He was like, it doesn't matter, we need to win. But he also did say, he's like, but this is what I did last year too, if you remember, because last year he also was like 6th, 8th, 9th, and then mid part of the year, then he kicked up to 1st and had that until World Cup, until Bjornikov took it away. But another interesting thing to note about the leaders and the top 5 guys is they're only separated by 3 points overall. So it's anybody's game at this point. And penalties do play a factor. So Marcelo and Kyle Spick are both doing really well right now in the sense that they haven't really got a lot of penalties. Everyone else in that top 5's got a couple penalties that they've had to deal with. So it's going to be crazy. But that's why it's fun to watch the game, man. You never know what's going to happen. I mean, not only that, but in order to get the overall player ranking, we take metrics, we take statistics over 6 different types of paintball statistics, all different measures of paintball greatness. So there's 6 different races essentially that are going on. Who's killing the most guys, who's staying alive the most, who's got the most penalties, who's played the cleanest, who's surviving the most, who's played the most points, who's winning the most. I mean, there's all these different statistics, and that's all going on while you're watching who's going to win the event. So it's why it's exciting to watch paintball.
Yeah, and 2 tournaments left is a lot of paintball to play.
Oh, yeah, and 2 huge tournaments.
Yeah, 2 huge tournaments, because going into Riverside, nobody wants to lose and go down to the Challengers bracket. So everybody's got to bring their A game, because nobody wants to lose and not get a chance to win World Cup.
Of course.
So, and then World Cup, that is where everybody shows up, and it's the best games you're going to watch all year, the best games that everybody prepares for. It's the World Cup.
Yeah, so I mean, there's a lot at stake in this next one, because if you get relegated down from the Champions Division, you're not going to have a chance to win the World Cup. And that could be Dynasty, that could be the Ironman, that could be any of these big teams. Damage, Impact, who knows? The teams have been kind of ruling the roost all year long. And then, of course, it's, World Cup could see 400 teams at that event. But regardless, anyway, it's going to be crazy. We're going to have more of the breakdown coming at you in just a few seconds. We're going to see the top 10 plays from the Chicago Open. Don't go anywhere. There are massive opportunities, both with the sport of paintball and for your business, if we are successful in taking our sport to another level. Unite with Paintball Access in our quest to elevate paintball and broadcast it to the world. There are advertising packages available for any size business. Join us. Advertise with PBA and help us change the sport for the better, forever.
Did you hear that? Hear what? Tanks? 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 Tanks! Tanks! Oh yeah, tanks. Night, night. Tanks! 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 Weasel free!
Welcome back to The Breakdown, brought to you by PaintballAccess.com. Matty Marshall alongside Todd Martinez, and we are breaking down everything that happened at the PSP Chicago Open, the third stop on the 2013 PSP Tour. 2 events left to go, and it's going to be interesting to see who's going to win the Top Gun, who's going to win the series. Can anybody defeat Houston Heat and San Diego Dynasty? We don't know. There's a lot of. I honestly believe that there's 8 to 10 teams that could win at any minute. But before we get into the rest of the pack, let's check out the top 10 plays of the 2013 PSP Chicago Open. So in at number 10, it's Fabrice Colombo, number 1 here from the Tauntauns. And he is running down Konstantin Fedorov. Now, what makes this an awesome play is Konstantin Fedorov was the standout performer from that event, but Colombo was able to make that rundown happen. So here we go, Thomas Taylor and Ben Bowie from Sacramento Excessive, double bunkering here on that snake side of the field. Look at this, Thomas Taylor cuts on the inside, and Ben Bowie cuts down on that sideline and able to get that shot in. And then next up, number 8, look at this, Oliver Lane, the consummate professional, one of the best players on earth, able to get in there and just glide ever so softly and shoot Danny Park. Also gives him an extra one as he leaves. Nice job by Oliver Lang, who's having a standout season. And then next up was number 7, Alex Goldman, doing exactly what you're supposed to do on that snake side of the field when you got somebody in front of you. And then it was Dalton Vanderbilt from San Diego Dynasty down that Dorito side of the field, able to get that first kill on San Antonio X Factor and glide in and get in clean. So nice job by Dalton Vanderbilt on that Dorito side, one of the best players on that side for San Diego Dynasty. And then was number 5 here, Damian Ryan for LA Infamous, and taking out the rookie here, Luis Munoz, getting shot down as he got himself a 2-pack. And then it was Danny Park from the LA Ironman running out of the penalty box and getting a shot on Damian Ryan as he ran out. Look at this in the slow-mo. Boom, gets a shot on Damian Ryan. Damian Ryan not able to get that shot in on Danny Park, and that's a really tough shot running and gunning out to the corner. And then number 3, it was Konstantin Fedorov. This is how you play the snake side of the field off the break. You see that? His eyes are up, guns up, able to get past the 50-yard line, and then rolls his gun towards the center of the field, eyes up again, realizes nothing stopping him, takes down the player in front of him, and then closes out the point pretty much off the break. So, that example right there, perfect example of why Konstantin Fedorov was the MVP for Houston Heat. And look at this, speaking of Houston Heat, Nick Sloviak closing out a point here against Upton 187 crew, taking out two of their best players, Max Traylor and Dan Zaleski, and the number one, Eddie Painter from Upton 187 crew up the center against the Tauntauns, destroys the guy in the center 50, and then gets himself that two-pack. And look at this from the reverse angle, runs up through the center, double shots him in the back of his head, and then gets his second kill to end that point out. So there you have it, the top 10 plays from the 2013 PSP Chicago Open. It was an interesting field, though, Todd. It was a very aggressive field. We saw a lot of those. We didn't see a lot of like 3-packs and 4-packs, like 3 or 4 kills in a point or on one move. But we did see a lot of aggression, a lot of guys getting run down, a lot of 1 kills and then trading out. Just a lot of guys not scared to attack.
Well, that center of the field made it really risky. Do you want to try and attack it or not? If a team was set up for it, they could shoot your guys going up the middle. But if they didn't shoot your guys, and also playing in that kind of like that dead zone, basically standing right in the flag station, turning and shooting was very risky, but very high reward. I guess that's the way you could label the whole field. That middle was high risk, high reward. Staying back, high risk, high reward. You could make it out to the snake on the break. You could make it to the Dorito 1 on the break. It was a great field to showcase the talent that we have in this league. And I think Houston Heat took the most advantage of it, obviously, by winning the tournament.
Yeah, and the thing was with Houston Heat was, and you got to give a lot of hats off to Jason Trozen. Jason Trozen very good at using, and all the top teams. Obviously you coaching Vicious now, and where you coached Infamous last season. Infamous had a great year last year. They won the Chicago Open last year. And Vicious has started to, make their presence known. You guys got relegated down to the Challengers division, and then you got picked up as the coach, earned your way out of the Challengers division, won the Challengers division at the Mid-Atlantic Open, and then came into the Champions division. How did you guys feel? How was it out there?
I think that from day one, we kind of laid down the groundwork for what we wanted to do.
Because, you guys took 4th at the event. That's pretty impressive.
Yeah.
The last time that they did that well was at World Cup 2 years ago.
Yeah, we were super happy, but I think with this team, it's all about confidence. And I think that, from day one, we laid our goals out, what we wanted to do, and have just worked hard at it. We've gotten the respect of some of the other teams around the league, but it's because we're working hard, coming out, giving some guys some good games, and just fighting. And the more we fight and the better we do, the more confidence these guys get. And they're playing hard, but they're willing to leave it all out there on the field. Drain the tanks, let the guns run empty. Clips on the ground, guns smoking, and whatever happens. They're just going to take them a little bit longer, to kind of break out a little bit more, but I'm super, super proud of what they've accomplished in just a few tournaments by making the top 4 out in Chicago.
That's pretty impressive because this is that, Vicious is one of those teams that over the years, they destroyed people coming up through the ranks, in the divisional ranks, but then they hit the pro leagues and had some successes, had some failures, never able to win an event, never really playing as well as they needed to, but they never had a coach that really enabled the guys to focus on playing as much as they needed to. And I think that obviously was one of those missing things. But now that you're there, it's just really cool to see because Vicious is one of those paintball success stories where, a lot of guys out there might see a Vicious or might see a Dynasty or see these teams and go, man, there's no way we could ever get to that level. No, you actually can. It just takes a lot of time, a lot of hard work, but it is absolutely achievable. So it's great to see Vicious take 4th. I expect bigger things out of you guys because I felt that the 2 new pickups played pretty well for you guys. I think the core of the team is playing well. At one point, Sauceman, Zach Sherman, and Bortle had combined for 23 kills. I think it was against was the Ironman, right? That's incredibly impressive. If you get the core of the team playing that well and having the rookies step up as well, the future is very bright. But let's talk about a couple of the other teams kind of middle of the pack. But upper middle of the pack that are favorites to win events that just haven't been there yet. And since you coached Infamous last year, what do you think about Infamous?
I still think that Infamous has a really, really solid squad. And
just won Europe, just won London.
Yeah, just won the Millennium Series in London. I think that with them, it's unity. It's confidence, and those guys just playing up to their potential. They want it. They obviously want it really bad. It's great to see Brad McCurley out there, the shape he's in with the injury he came off of. Damian Ryan, you didn't think he could get in better shape. He's in better shape. Bobby Aviles is by far probably my most favorite, or top 2-3 players to watch.
Well, and he was the Top Gun leader for the first two events, and now it was overtaken by Marcelo Margot. But Infamous is another one of those, those quote-unquote superstar teams stacked with talent that just hasn't really performed up to their level. But again, it's like when you're looking at an Impact or an Ironman or an Infamous, if they're not winning tournaments, then we sit here and go, oh, they're not performing up to their level of talent, which is true because they put those teams together to win tournaments, and they've won tournaments in the past, so they can do that. But again, you're playing against the best paintball players in the entire world. It's tough, man. Only one team can win the event at any given time, and the rest of the guys are going to sit there and go, oh, we didn't play up to our potential. But that's just the truth of the matter.
Yeah, and I think that was part of it. I mean, I was kind of worried, when we ended up playing Infamous the very first game, but actually ended up watching their guys play, Nikki, Drew, and learning from those guys. I was actually ended up being glad that we played them first, just because those guys are so creative. They're so smart. Nikki and Drew, played pretty well, and Callie Kevin played awesome on the Dorito side for them. So I think with Infamous, right now, it's, they gave up a lot of leads early, because of penalties and stupid stuff like that. But I also felt that if those guys the biggest thing is just keeping it together and all those guys being on the same page and playing together. Yeah. But that team can win tournaments, no problem.
Yeah, and Impact kind of on the same tip for sure. Because Impact, they're probably one of the most aggressive teams out there. I think Ryan Moorhead is having a great year so far on the snake side, which is not normally what he does. And obviously Dave Baines, one of the top guys, not really seeing a ton of reps, not a ton of spins this particular season because the field layouts have been a little bit more aggressive. But they got a lot of weapons too. They got Greg Sewers on that team now. They got Justin Rabikoff, who's, he's way up there in the G rating. He's just killing a lot of guys out there this year and playing really well. So Impact could win a tournament. They can win the next tournament. They can win the World Cup. Who knows?
And two guys that I think are really playing great for them that we don't really talk about a lot are Joshua Met and Zach Yakimek. I think that both of those two guys are having very solid years.
Yeah, Zach Yakimek's having a year for sure. And, of course, Joshua Met's one of those guys that, we spend a lot of time talking about these big names that are on that team, but he's just that quiet killer. You need guys like that. He's the Zach Sherman, from Vicious. Zach Sherman's a quiet killer out there. Doesn't really talk about himself a lot. Not somebody that really needs a lot of his ego fulfilled, and Wilmette is like that too. But you have to have guys like that on your team if you want to contend. And Wilmette's definitely putting in work this year.
He's definitely been there forever. He's been part of the solid foundation of Impact for a long time. And now that he's got, some really good players around him, we're able to realize his potential as well.
Yeah, but that's why it's fun to watch the game, man. There's so many different teams that could win at any. There's 20 pro teams now with the Champs and Challengers division, but to be honest, any one of those champ teams could just pull it out and win the event at any given point. So I'm really excited about the West Coast Open. Let's talk about the Challengers real quick. The two teams that are going to be bumping down, it's Upton 187 crew and the Tauntauns getting relegated down. And then on the flip side, you have Moscow Red Legion and the Top Gun Union. And both now, first of all, Moscow Red Legion and Trenton Top Gun have a lot of talent on the team or on their teams. But with Upton 187 crew and the Tauntauns, I really was impressed by the Tauntauns this year so far, and they just really kind of had a really bad tournament. But I really felt those games were closer than the points spread dictated. What did you think?
I just felt like the Tauntauns couldn't do anything playing 4-on-5 the whole time. They got so many penalties. They were like X Factor, this event. X Factor got so many penalties. We couldn't really see. The X Factor that we saw in the first 4 points they played of the event, I believe it was against the Ironmen. Their first game of this event, they came out just smoking. It was against Dynasty because they came out and they blew that Dorito side of the field 4 games in a row. And we're just putting it on Dynasty. Dynasty was looking around like, oh my gosh, what's happening? What are we going to do? And then the penalties just started flying, and that was what happened to X Factor for the rest of the event. Even when we played them, it was a good, solid game. and then they start getting penalties. We stick to our guns, let them get penalties, make the mistakes, and next thing you know, you're trying to dig yourself out of a hole, and it's just so hard in this league because there's so many good teams.
Yeah, but that's one of those frustrating situations, and they are going to need to fix that heading into the next event because you don't want to be playing in those relegation games. Infamous has been able to fight their way out of that, and so has X Factor, but again, Infamous and X Factor. I mean, X Factor starting last year, they were on that upward climb. They took third at the World Cup, man. They were like, hey, look, we're the best guys ever to play the game from Texas. We've won tournaments here in this league before. We have an amazingly talented lineup. They picked up a new coach. They got some new players, but Wake got a lot of penalties for them. He's a really good player too, but it's like, I don't know, it's just a frustrating turn of events for those guys.
Yeah, but I mean, going back to the Tauntauns, we think, they're a great set of players. Having a great set of players doesn't always make a great team, but I think that those guys really can play well together, but they just have to stop getting penalties. That's what killed them this last
They got to
event.
stop getting penalties. I think they're going to be okay at the next event. I think they got a really good shot. Obviously, there's some really good teams down there in the Challengers division, but they got Saban coming back, Saban Samuelson, Carl Samuelson's brother. So the two Samuelson brothers are phenomenal players. They're Swedish, playing for the best team in Europe right now, which is the Tauntauns from France. So it's kind of a little crazy as far as that works, but they're working hard. They looking at the long-term view. I really think the Tauntauns are. I mean, I know it might say weird to say because they just got relegated down, but I think they got a shot to win tournaments in the future. It just, how hard can they work and how quick can they get it together and how clean can they play? And then with Upton, they've just been kind of disappointing because seeing what they brought last year, they didn't win a lot of games, but at the same time, they definitely impressed us with their aggression. They impressed us with their mindset as far as, okay, well, we're heading into the best league in the world. We're really good at paintball. What are we going to do? Well, they just attacked. And they earned a lot of fans and earned a lot of respect. This year, I just haven't really kind of seen the same 187 yet. And I think that they've, I was talking to the owner, Dave Painter, and Dave was like, I think that we've proved that we deserve to be pro, but we haven't really made any sort of definitive statement that we deserve to be in the Championships League.
Yeah, and they got relegated again. So they're going to have to spend Riverside trying to fight their way out of the Challengers bracket and hopefully be in Champions Division at World Cup.
What was one of the most interesting things, though, about what happened in the Challengers Division was that a team that we haven't really spoke a lot about so far this year, but did make the step up from D1 to move into the Challengers Division was Royalty. So Royalty played Moscow Red Legion. Now, Moscow Red Legion, after getting relegated down to the Challengers Division, decimated everybody. I mean, they came in and they just destroyed people. But when Royalty played Moscow, and they were playing to see who was going to advance to play in the final matchup in the Challengers Division. And this was the game to see who would move up into the Challengers Division because the top two teams in the Challengers Division move up into the Champions League. Royalty gave them a match.
Yeah, Royalty definitely gave them a match. And if you watch any of the Red Legion games, Biernikov was dominating. Kevin Coulomb stepped up big for them. Michael Kovar played great. Kirill Peridny always plays great for them, but they were just obliterating teams. They beat Texas Storm 7-0 in 6 minutes?
Yeah, they beat Texas Storm, who's a good team. Just like you said, man, they beat them in 6 minutes, 7-0. They didn't lose a game in the prelims, so then they just dominated everyone. So I don't know if it was a little bit one of those stories where, we're decimating everybody, we're going to head and we're going to dominate Royalty, but Royalty gave them a match. But here's the thing. Now, when you look at Moscow Red Legion, they're a team that's won 3 world championships. They've won more PSP events in the professional league than any team that's ever played in the league. As you're looking at
Lukashuk right there, coming out of the box, bunkering out the player, and then making his move all the way down the snake, and then closing out the game. Lukashuk is another one of those players that really stepped up this event.
And he's a guy they need to step up because they haven't really had that dominant snake presence since they lost Axel Godin from last year. They had Jason Wheeler and Axel playing tag team, and on the snake side in 2012, they lost Axel. They also lost Marcelo Margot. This has been a really big it's been a rebuilding year for them. And it's one of those situations where it's like, okay, well, when you listen to Jason Wheeler's interviews talking about Moscow, he said it's the best thing that happened to them when they bumped down to head and to go into the Challengers League because it forced them to look at their team in a new way, as we're seeing the action on the Snake side of the field. But the thing is that, yeah, Moscow got it together, but I'm telling you, man, Royalty, they could be a good team. They have Shane Pistana, one of the most legendary coaches in the game, coaching them and playing for them in a great new chapter in his paintball career. They have the Vidalich brothers. There's 3 brothers playing on that team, and they're all very talented. Jason Vidalich is just, really looking like he could be a standout star one of these days. And then they also have Toke Hamill, who used to play for the Los Angeles Ironmen, who's pretty much a brother team for San Jose Royalty. They've got a lot of scrimmages in against them. And they also have Chris Catt, who used to play for the Ironmen and moved away, and there's Shane Pistana walking off. And I just think that Royalty is one of those teams that when you really start breaking it down, great leadership, they have great sponsorship, great support, lots of young talent, very hungry. It's not a no-brainer that they took Moscow to a 7-5 game, and honestly, if you go back and rewatch that game on demand, you will see mistakes that were made by Royalty that could have put them into the final matchup in the Challengers division.
Yeah, absolutely. The best thing about going back and watching all those games on demand is seeing all the mistakes that you made and all the different ways that games could have went over there. But I think the number one most important thing for Royalty is Shane Pistana. Just the fact that his knowledge base is so expansive. He knows so much about the game, and he's just a leader. He's a natural born leader. He's a motivator, and all those kids that he has on his team are young and hungry and small and fast, and they just want to learn and they just want to play. Shane has nothing but great things to say about the Vidalich brothers. And then like you said, having Cecil and Toke Hamill, that's a good solid core of guys right there. And then there's the other guys on that squad that can all ball. So just having a leader like Shane Pistana behind some young, hungry talent, San Jose Royalty is going to be a team to reckon with.
No joke, man. I really think that there's a decent... they almost beat Moscow. They almost made it into the Champions division. And when I talked to Shane Pistana after, I was coached by Shane Pistana when I was on the Ironman and we won a world championship. You've been there too, Todd. Shane is the most legendary coach in the game. I don't care who it is, and he's just one of those guys that really can lead your team to a championship. He did it with the Ironman in 2000. He played on the Ironman way back in the day in the mid-90s when they were winning then, and then also he led the Ironman to championships also in the mid-2000s, and now he's got these bunch of young, hungry guys from Northern California. They're all on the same page, and just like you were saying, and when you got 3, 4, 5, 6 young, hungry guys that want to play hard, that want to play paintball every single weekend and get in that grind, and then you got that legendary coach who's really incredibly good at, probably the best ever at working with his talent. Remember the name San Jose Royalty, and because I'm telling you that team really could be great one day. And Moscow in their rebuilding stages now, I really think now starting to look like the team that we saw last year when they rebuilt a little bit again, because they've lost all the guys that are on, not all the guys, but 3 of the players that are on Houston Heat used to play for Moscow Red Legion. And we're talking about some of the best players ever to come out of Europe in Sergei Solnaiskov, Konstantin Fedorov, and Mishka. And now they're playing for Houston Heat and winning tournaments for them. They won 4 tournaments in the past 2 years. So it's been really tough for Moscow because they've had to rebuild. Obviously they have Kirill Pridny and Alexander Biernikov, the 2012 Top Gun award winner. So they have good guys on that team. And they had Marcelo last year and Axel Godin. But now it's just another one of those years for them. But they understand what's in front of them, and I think that they understand it's going to take some time for them to get back to that legendary Moscow place where they were before, where they've won more events than anyone's ever won in the PSP Pro Division, and you'd probably normally think that would be Dynasty. Dynasty's a longer existing team than Moscow, and Moscow's only been focusing on the PSP their entire time that they've been a team. So I don't know. I think they're going to get back there eventually. It was definitely cool to see them just blow the competition out in the semifinals and look really awesome. Yeah. And yeah, they had a little bit of a hiccup, but then they went on to win the Challengers League, and they will be advancing back up to play in the Champions League again, which is, you could tell they were playing with a chip on their shoulder.
Yeah, absolutely. And as long as they have Kirill and Biernikov, they have a solid foundation that can teach people how to play, how to be better, and how to win. So I think that's something that kind of goes overlooked is just having been there before. That's why I believe so strongly in San Jose Royalty. They have Shane Pestana who has been there before. He knows how to win, and it's a different story when you're trying to teach people how to win than how to try to win. And Shane Pestana is just one of those guys that has that innate knowledge of those situations, playing in big games, and just really understanding what it takes to be a real winning team.
Well, and it's something that you can't really teach winning. You have to learn how to win, but you can help guide your talent to be the best that they possibly can be. And I've been there before. I mean, Shane Pestana was able to bring the best out of me. He was able to bring the best out of most of the players that have ever played for him. He's that guy that is motivating you and pumping you up to want to be the best player you possibly can be. And I just think they got a legit chance given a little bit of time. But only time can tell. It really remains to be seen. But again, that's why we play the games, man. That's why we shoot the paintballs at each other ultimately. So there's 2 more events left here in this year, but before we sign off, let's get a little bit of a glimpse at what's happening up north with the CXBL as the Canadian X-Ball League. First event for them, the Border Battle was going down, and it's pretty much, it's a brutal league up there, man. They play old school X-Ball. We're talking about full-on X-Ball matches. And it's not a race to 7 there. It's just battle it out, get crazy, and try to score as many points as you possibly can. And there's a lot of big players from the States that go up there and play up in Canada. Houston Heat's been one of those teams that has gone up there. Vicious, it's now London Vicious when they go up there. And also the team that's been playing the best at least so far in 2013 is Windsor Lockdown, which is essentially a bunch of the Tampa Bay Damage guys with Marcelo Margot and Alex Goldman from the Los Angeles Ironman, and they were stunting up there a couple weekends ago. So we'll have more information coming at you from the CXBL on paintballaccess.com. And I've heard so many good things. I can't wait to actually get up there one of these days, hopefully, and check out one of those events. But every single time it happens, I hear everyone has a great time. It's, there's paintball leagues all across the planet, and that's one of the best ones, man. It's really kind of cool to see them, be throwing down in the full X-ball matches like we used to play back in the day.
Yeah, 25-minute halves, 15 ball a second guns, and just as much paintball as you can play. I mean, you walk out a couple of those matches just dying. Some of the funnest games, you're just blowing people to pieces, getting blown to pieces. Yeah. Serving long majors.
Yeah. I mean, I remember I served a 10-minute major. I don't want to go into the story exactly how that happened.
Yeah.
But it was crazy. But yeah, so CXBL will have more of that information coming at you on paintballaccess.com as the year progresses. But before we sign off, man, definitely want to make sure you sign up for the West Coast Open, which is the next event coming up here, and it will be here before you know it. And it's probably going to sell out. All the events have sold out this year. Make sure you go to PSPevents.com for the 2013 PSP West Coast Open. It's going to be August 16th through the 18th. It's going to be held at the A.B. Brown Sports Complex, a little outside of Los Angeles, and it's going to be in Riverside. And the PSP hasn't made its return to the West Coast in a while, but now finally coming back, and there's a lot going on at that event, and a lot's going to be decided as far as where everyone matches up for World Cup. So definitely go to PSPevents.com, get your team in the fight, and also remember to sign up for the World Cup early. It's 2013 PSP World Cup, October 17th through the 20th, and it's going to be held at the Fantasy of Flight, a little outside Orlando, Florida. And we're expecting, I think that tournament is going to eclipse 400 teams this year.
Yeah, I mean, we had over 200 teams in Chicago. The place was a madhouse. The parking lot at CPX, one of the biggest paintball facilities in the country, was just overflowing with cars. Polk City, Florida, it's going to be going down. There's going to be probably over 400 teams.
Yeah, it was I think there was 380 teams left, 360. Yeah. It was ridiculous. So. And this year, paintball is every single event so far is sold out for the PSP. It's been awesome events so far, and I'm really looking forward to it, man. We've got 2 more crazy events coming at you. I mean, who's going to win the title this year? I mean, obviously, Dynasty's making a huge run for it with 2 wins and a 2nd place. Houston Heat finally stepping up after taking 2 5th place finishes in a row. And Dallas and the Mid-Atlantic Open coming back and winning Chicago. Let's take a look at the standings for the year, the 2013 PSP standings. And you see there's San Diego Dynasty at the top, and this is out of 1,000 points. You get 200 points for a win at each one of the 5 events. So those are the numbers on the right-hand side. And Tampa Bay Damage ranked 2nd, Edmonton Impact ranked 3rd, and Houston Heat ranked 4th because they had those 2 fifth place finishes at the first 2 events. And then you have the Los Angeles Ironmen and Infamous, followed up by San Antonio X Factor, the Tauntauns, Vicious making their appearance in the top 10, and Moscow Red Legion. And then we also have the teams that will be in the Challengers division as well, or that are ranked down there. And actually, you know, looking at Trent and Top Gun, they're at 13th, but they're going to have a chance to crack that top 10 as they're going to be making their first Champions League appearance at the West Coast Open. Chattanooga CEP going to be down there in the Challengers League, as well as Upton 187 crew. San Jose Royalty 14th. Seattle Thunder having a tough year so far, ranked 15th. And Chicago Aftershock is another legendary team with multiple world championships under their belt, but reforming their squad and just haven't been able to perform. Though they had a really good event in Chicago, but it's just not able. They didn't get the breaks to advance. And then Texas Storm, 17th, Sacramento Excessive, a legendary squad, man. I mean, they're world champions too, and just really had a bad year so far, and expecting big things for them or from them in the future. And then also Sacramento DMG, who have won D1 tournaments, making the move, and then New Jersey Jesters. And
they're fun to watch.
Yeah,
Jesters are definitely fun to watch.
Jesters are definitely fun to watch, man. But that's a cool. I mean, we're listing those names off. We talked about how good Royalty could be. I mean, Excessive, they're ranked pretty far down there, but finally seeing some life in them. Thomas Taylor had a great event in London, I heard, with Infamous as well. Mm-hmm. You know, so it's one of those things, man. It's paintball. It's crazy, you know. Like, the gun is the great equalizer. Anybody could win these events at any time. We're not just saying that to generate hype. I mean, no joke, man. There's probably, at any given point, 10 teams that could win the event. And it's been a crazy year so far. We're going to see some more at the West Coast Open. So thank you guys here for tuning in to the breakdown, brought to you by PaintballAccess.com. I'm Matty Marshall with Todd Martinez, and we will see you guys next time.